The Golden Compass, 2007. Based on the first book in Philip Pullman's acclaimed His Dark Materials trilogy, The Golden Compass was released in 2007 with the grand ambition of launching a new fantasy film franchise. The story follows Lyra Belacqua, a spirited orphan living in a parallel universe where human souls exist outside their bodies as animal companions called demons. When her friend is abducted by a sinister organization known as the Gobblers, Lyra embarks on a perilous journey to the frozen north. Armed with a truth-telling device via a thiometer, she joins forces with river-faring Egyptians, a Texan aeronaut, and a magnificent armored polar bear named Iorek Burnaseth. Her quest reveals a dark conspiracy orchestrated by the powerful Magisterium and the dangerously charming Mrs. Coulter, involving stolen children and a mysterious cosmic substance called dust. Despite its stunning visuals and a star-studded cast, the film was a critical and commercial disappointment, ultimately failing to secure its planned sequels. The primary reason for its flop was its fearful handling of the source material. The studio, wary of controversy, stripped the narrative of its complex philosophical and anti-religious themes, which are central to Pullman's work. This sanitized approach resulted in a story that felt hollow and thematically neutered, alienating fans of the books while leaving newcomers with a confusing and rushed plot. The film crams dense world-building into a condensed runtime, never allowing characters or concepts to fully breathe. Furthermore, its abrupt, softened ending, which cut the novel's much darker and more impactful conclusion, felt like a desperate and unearned attempt to set up a sequel that would never materialize. Dracula Untold, 2014. Released in 2014, Dracula Untold was Universal Pictures' first attempt to launch its dark universe, a shared cinematic world of its classic monsters. The film reimagines the origin of the infamous vampire, presenting Prince Vlad III of Wallachia as a tragic hero. Faced with an ultimatum from the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II to surrender 1,000 boys for his army, including Vlad's own son, Vlad seeks out a monstrous power hidden deep within the mountains. He makes a pact with an ancient vampire, gaining superhuman strength, speed, and the ability to command bats, all to defend his kingdom. However, this power comes at a great cost, an uncontrollable thirst for human blood which he must resist for 3 days to return to his mortal form. The film chronicles his desperate battle against the Ottoman forces while fighting the monster growing within him. Dracula Untold ultimately stumbled and was written out of its own universe's continuity. Its failure stemmed from a critical identity crisis. By reframing Dracula as a sympathetic, sword-wielding action hero, the film stripped the character of the gothic horror and seductive menace that made him iconic. The result was a generic fantasy action movie, visually reminiscent of films like 300 but lacking a distinct personality. The plot felt rushed and formulaic, sacrificing character depth for CGI-heavy battle sequences. Its most glaring flaw was a hastily added modern-day epilogue designed to explicitly set up future installments. Universal quietly abandoned this version of Dracula, opting to reboot its dark universe concept entirely a few years later with The Mummy. The Mummy, 2017. After soft launching and abandoning the idea with Dracula Untold, Universal Pictures made its official high-stakes bid to create the dark universe with 2017's The Mummy. Starring Tom Cruise, the film follows roguish soldier of fortune Nick Morton, who accidentally unearths the ancient tomb of an Egyptian princess, Amenet. Cursed by the resurrected mummy, Nick finds himself inexplicably linked to her as she rampages across modern-day London, seeking to complete a ritual that will grant the evil god set a corporeal form using Nick's body. Nick is soon drawn into the world of Prodigium, a secret society led by Dr. Henry Jekyll, dedicated to hunting and containing supernatural threats. He must race against time to stop Amenet's global destruction, while grappling with the curse that has chosen him as a pawn in a cosmic game. Designed to be the explosive start of an interconnected monsterverse, The Mummy was a spectacular misfire that killed the franchise on arrival. The film's most significant flaw was its frantic attempt to serve too many masters. Instead of focusing on a compelling standalone story, large portions of the film felt like a feature-length trailer for future movies, with Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll serving as a clunky exposition machine. The narrative was disjointed, the characters were underdeveloped, and the film lacked the charming, adventurous spirit of its Brendan Fraser-led predecessors. The critical and box office backlash was so severe that Universal immediately scrapped all plans for the Dark Universe, making The Mummy a high-profile monument to the dangers of prioritizing a franchise over a good film. Gods of Egypt, 2016. In an alternate ancient Egypt where towering gods live among mortals, the benevolent king Osiris is murdered by his jealous brother Set, the god of darkness. Set usurps the throne, blinds his nephew Horus, and enslaves the people of Egypt. The story picks up with a young mortal thief, Bek, who, in an effort to save his love Zaya, makes a pact with the exiled and bitter Horus. Together, the unlikely pair, a disgraced god and a nimble human, embark on a perilous quest to defeat the tyrannical Set. Their journey spans the mortal world and the heavens, pitting them against mythical beasts, deadly traps, and Set's powerful assassins as they fight to restore balance to the world. Beyond the casting, the film was a spectacular failure of execution. It leaned so heavily on subpar CGI that it felt less like a movie and more like a lengthy, uninspired video game cutscene. The world lacked weight, the action was incoherent, and the character designs were often bizarre. The plot itself was a convoluted mess, failing to build a compelling narrative or give the audience characters to care about. The disastrous critical reception and catastrophic box office performance ensured this universe was buried in the desert sands after just one entry. Fantastic Four, 2015. Fantastic Four, released in 2015, attempted to reboot Marvel's first family for a new generation. The plot follows a group of young geniuses, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, who build an interdimensional teleporter. After an unauthorized trip to another dimension known as Planet Zero, they are exposed to an unknown energy source that grants them extraordinary abilities. Reed can stretch his body, Sue can become invisible and create force fields, Johnny can engulf himself in flames, and Ben is transformed into a super strong rock-like creature. Their former colleague, Victor Von Doom, is also transformed into a godlike being and returns with a plan to destroy Earth, forcing the newly formed team to unite and stop him. The film was an immediate critical and commercial disaster, primarily due to its radical and misguided departure from the source material. Instead of the adventurous and optimistic tone characteristic of the Fantastic Four comics, director Josh Trank opted for a dark, gritty, and joyless sci-fi horror atmosphere. The characters are poorly developed, lacking the signature family dynamic and witty banter that defines them. Ultimately, Fantastic Four flopped because it fundamentally misunderstood its own heroes. The rushed and underwhelming third-act climax, a product of well-documented behind-the-scenes turmoil and studio-mandated reshoots, left audiences unsatisfied. Green Lantern 2011. Released in 2011, Green Lantern was Warner Bros.' ambitious attempt to launch a major new DC superhero franchise to stand alongside its established icons, Batman and Superman. The film introduces Hal Jordan, a gifted but cocky test pilot who is chosen by a powerful alien ring to join the Green Lantern Corps, an ancient peacekeeping force that protects the universe. Whisked away to the planet Oa for training, Hal struggles with the immense responsibility and the fear within himself. He must quickly master his new abilities, the power to create anything his mind can imagine, as an ancient and powerful entity known as Parallax, which feeds on fear, escapes its cosmic prison, and sets its sights on destroying Earth. This forces Hal to confront his own demons and become the hero he was destined to be. The film's most glaring issue was its overwhelming and often unconvincing reliance on CGI. From Hal's fully digital suit to the imaginative but weightless energy constructs, the visuals felt artificial and detached, failing to ground the cosmic story. The plot was a formulaic origin story that felt both rushed and underdeveloped, while the villain, Parallax, was a generic, cloud-like CGI threat with no compelling motivation. Ryan Reynolds' performance was charismatic, but it couldn't save a script with an inconsistent tone that veered clumsily between space opera and bland romantic comedy. Its failure at the box office forced Warner Brothers to scrap all sequel plans and eventually reboot the character entirely, making the film a cautionary tale about launching a universe without a solid foundation. Mortal Engines, 2018. In a post-apocalyptic future, humanity survives on massive mobile traction cities that roam the wasteland, devouring smaller towns for resources. The film follows Hester Shaw, a scarred fugitive with a personal vendetta against Quadius Valentine, the powerful leader of the predatory city of London. After a failed assassination attempt, Hester and a young London historian, Tom Natsworthy, are cast out into the desolate outlands. They form an uneasy alliance and join forces with Anna Fang, a dangerous resistance leader, to stop Valentine from using an ancient superweapon to destroy his rivals. Their quest becomes a desperate race to prevent the total annihilation of the world's remaining static settlements. Produced by Peter Jackson and intended to be the next epic Lord of the Rings scale franchise, Mortal Engines instead became a spectacular financial disaster that immediately halted any sequel plans. The film's core problem was a story that couldn't support its ambitious and visually stunning concept. It prioritized frantic action and dense world building over emotional depth, leaving the audience with little to connect with. The plot felt rushed, sprinting through the source material's complex ideas without giving them room to breathe. The result was a film that was visually inventive but emotionally hollow, feeling more like a showcase for special effects than a compelling adventure. With a budget nearing $175 million and a dismal box office return of only $83 million, the would-be franchise ran out of fuel before it even got started, ensuring its grand plans evaporated on arrival. Morbius, 2022. Dr. Michael Morbius, a brilliant scientist suffering from a rare and fatal blood disease, dedicates his life to finding a cure. In a desperate and unethical experiment involving vampire bat DNA, he seemingly succeeds, curing himself and gaining superhuman abilities like echolocation, super strength, and flight. However, the cure comes at a terrible price: an overwhelming thirst for human blood. As Morbius struggles to control his new vampiric nature and subsist on artificial blood, his surrogate brother, Milo, who suffers from the same ailment, steals the cure for himself. Unlike Morbius, Milo revels in his newfound power, embracing his monstrous side and leaving a trail of bodies across the city. This forces Morbius into a reluctant hero role, as he must hunt down and stop the very man he once called family. Part of Sony's burgeoning Spider-Man universe, Morbius was intended to expand their anti-hero franchise alongside Venom, with clear teases for sequels and crossovers. Instead, it became a spectacular failure. Despite an online meme campaign, It's Morbin Time, that gave it a brief, ironic cultural moment, the film was savaged by critics and underperformed at the box office. The core issue was its dated, generic, and utterly forgettable execution. The plot felt like a relic from a pre-MCU era of superhero films with a predictable story, bland characters, and messy, uninspired CGI action. Jared Leto's somber performance was lost in a sea of mediocrity, and the film's attempts to connect to a larger universe felt forced and nonsensical. The disastrous reception immediately killed any talk of a Morbius 2, leaving the character's franchise dreams dead on arrival and turning the film into a punchline for cinematic universe misfires. What other franchise killer did we miss? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into cinematic history.